Just because you can't see a certain energy does not mean it doesn't exist. You can't see microwaves. You can't see infrared. You can't see your Wi-Fi. But that does not mean it doesn't exist as energy. It just means that your eyes are not equipped to perceive that energy. But your body is equipped to. Your body does feel energy. What's more is that just because you can't measure something, or scientists can't measure it, does not mean it doesn't exist. There was a time, 200 years ago even, that scientists could not measure most of the things we can now measure. But even before we could measure those energies and electricity, we knew it existed. If you could see humans as fields of energy, they might look something like this, with many varying degrees of color, as well as expansion of their energy fields depending upon their state, their mood, and their intentions. Love is an energy that scientists can't measure, yet it does exist, and it has very tangible and practical effects. A state of love or goodwill or kindness actually improves your health, as well as your well-being, as well as your abundance and everything else in your life. That's why we say all you need is love. Love can come about as an intention, the intention to love, but more importantly, love comes about as the result of seeing clearly, of seeing life clearly. The more you see reality as it really is, the more you feel love, kindness, and goodwill to all beings. The easier it is to forgive. The funny thing is that we associate love with being soft, sometimes even with being naive, and with being defenseless. And that's really funny to me, because the opposite is true. Love is one of the most potent and powerful energies and forces in the universe. And love is, in fact, your protective shield. So a lot of people ask me how they can protect themselves from negative energy, from so-called psychic vampires, from negative people, from attacks, from criticism. And you find a lot of recommendations out there on psychic protection and visualizing this and that, visualizing a force field, visualizing a light around you and whatnot. And I don't want to bad talk these things. They are valid in a limited context, but the unlimited context is love. If you have a strong sense of love, kindness, forgiveness, gratitude, goodwill, you're in a higher frequency, you're on a higher level of consciousness, and you don't need any more techniques to protect yourself. In fact, the more love is, the less you need of anything at all. Being in a state of love repels negative energy. So if somebody's sending you anger, or somebody's cursing you, or whatever, and you're in a state of love, then that attack goes back to them. They hurt themselves with their attack. So the truth is that your anger does not hurt anyone but yourself. If you want to protect from negative people, your anger hurts yourself. If you're angry at that person, it doesn't hurt that person, it goes back to yourself. But if you can stay loving, stay calm, stay in kindness, forgiveness, and goodwill, then the energy, the negative vibe they send toward you boomerangs back to them. So let's say somebody's shouting at you or arguing with you, and the natural approach would be to get angry too. So both parties go down to the same level. And that's an utterly pointless exercise. As you know, as everybody knows, yet for some reason we keep engaging in that, even though we know it doesn't work and doesn't affect anything. It's actually an ego game. So when you argue and fight and get angry, it's the ego that actually feels stronger, feels empowered. Fighting and arguing and being angry is something that a weak and disempowered ego does in order to gain strength. But in the process, that ego could destroy your entire life. The ego doesn't care about actual results, it just cares about being right. And then when it can be right, its self-importance is reaffirmed, even though the relationship might be destroyed, or the business deal might be destroyed, or whatever. So the more sensible and the more effective approach in all cases, no exceptions, is to stay in a loving state, even when the other is in a negative state. And if somebody's angry at you and you stay calm and loving, what at first might happen is that the person gets even more angry and even more angry because that person is not achieving in pushing your buttons. So they try harder and harder and harder for you to also get angry and go down to their level. And in that case, if that happens, it might be wise to remove yourself physically in case they get violent, or not to provide a platform for their assault. However, what eventually happens when you radiate love toward anger or hate or fear or sadness is that love always wins, and the hate or the anger or the sadness or the fear gradually begin to melt away. Love always wins. Love is the much, 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 much stronger energy. It's an exercise I often demonstrate in my live reality creation seminars, where I have two people sitting across from each other, one projecting negative energy and the other projecting positive energy. And from such experiences, people know that love always wins. It is unstoppable and unbeatable, and eventually results in both parties being in a good state, in a friendly, goodwill state. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not your job to always uplift others through the radiance of your energy. So if you're always the party uplifting the other, and this goes on and on and on and on, and there's no balance of each one uplifting the other once in a while, then I'd say it's time to move on and find people more aligned with your level of energy, your level of consciousness. Love can also manifest itself as focus, as being focused on a particular project or a hobby you love, or a work you love. This woman, for example, is very unlikely to be psychically or energetically attacked because she's so involved and focused on violin playing. And that loving focus creates a protective field, a protective shield around her. The strongest love energy, by the way, surrounds infants and babies, which is why parents feel so happy when they're playing with their children, and which is why the loving protection and care of children is so fulfilling. Anybody who does not feel a softer, more smiling heart in the presence of a laughing or happy baby is in a very low state. What you can learn from children in order to expand your own consciousness is their sense of innocence, their lack of intellectualizing and analyzing and scrutinizing, their lack of paranoia, their trust, their happy to be alive attitude. If you wish to ascend in levels of consciousness, the most important job for you is to find ways and methods to increase your sense of care, kindness, love, and goodwill. Also to a point where your love becomes so strong that you can even love your enemies and have their negativity melt in your presence. My name is Fred Dodson. If you enjoyed this presentation, share it far and wide.